The sun rose over the endless desert like a fire bleeding across the sky, casting long, jagged shadows over the sand. The air was thick with silence, the kind of silence that wasn't peaceful, but haunting, like it had witnessed too many things left unspoken. At Outpost 73, a remote military base lost in the middle of nowhere, Private First Class Lucas Hayes received a transmission that hit harder than any bullet ever could. The radio crackled with the voice of a superior officer, dry and detached: "Terminate the K9. Effective immediately." The words landed like a weight on Lucas's chest. The K9 in question wasn't just a dog, it was Thor, a German shepherd that had saved countless lives on the battlefield, including Lucas's own. He wasn't just any soldier's companion, he was a decorated hero, a war dog whose loyalty had never wavered, even when the world around him crumbled. Now, deemed unstable by command after one protective bark too many, he was marked for death. And the person assigned to carry out the order was Lucas himself. Lucas had arrived at Outpost 73 6 months earlier, wide-eyed and tight-chested, fresh from basic training with trembling hands and a head full of uncertainty. The base was unlike anything he had imagined, more ghosts than people, more scars than stories. Veterans kept to themselves. Laughter was rare. But in the silence, Lucas noticed a figure moving with unmatched purpose, the dog, massive and lean, with eyes that didn't just observe, they understood. That was Thor. He belonged to Sergeant Riley, the toughest K9 handler on the base. Riley didn't say much, but it was clear from the way he moved with Thor that their bond was more than professional, it was brotherhood forged through fire. Over time, Lucas started joining them on patrol. Slowly, he learned the rhythm of Thor's movements, the subtle flick of an ear that signaled danger, the rigid posture when a threat loomed. Thor didn't react out of panic, he responded with calculation. And Lucas, who barely trusted himself, began to trust Thor more than any man in uniform. One mission changed everything. During a late-night recon in a shattered village, Lucas's squad was ambushed. The explosion came first, loud and gut-wrenching. Chaos followed: gunfire, smoke, screams. In the confusion, Lucas was separated, wounded by shrapnel, his leg a mess of torn fabric and blood. He crawled into the shell of a broken building, heart pounding, breath shallow, expecting death. Hours passed. Then, through the dust and debris, came Thor. No leash. No handler. Just purpose. He had broken free from his convoy miles away and tracked Lucas through hostile terrain. He lay beside him through the night, alert, guarding him from threats both human and wild. When reinforcements finally arrived nearly 2 days later, Lucas was unconscious from blood loss, but alive. And Thor was still there, lying across his chest, refusing to leave. From that moment, their connection was no longer just functional. It was unspoken but absolute. Thor didn't just rescue Lucas physically, he brought him back from emotional oblivion. Lucas began caring for Thor after Riley was reassigned due to injuries. He fed him, trained with him, even slept beside him during watch shifts. The two became inseparable. But war doesn't honor bonds, it obeys paperwork. One morning, during a routine debriefing, Thor barked sharply when a new commanding officer raised his hand toward Lucas in frustration. Thor didn't attack, he didn't bite, he simply stood between them. It was a gesture of loyalty, protection, instinct. But to the brass, it was enough. A report was filed. Thor was now considered a liability, unfit for service. Despite Lucas's pleas, despite testimonials and letters, the decision came swiftly. Thor was to be decommissioned. An innocent word that masked something brutal. And because Thor trusted no one else now, only Lucas, the duty fell to him. The base gave him a single round and a location just outside the perimeter. The cruelty of it all was unbearable. Lucas tried every angle, he offered to adopt Thor, to take full responsibility, to arrange for transport to a sanctuary. But orders were orders, and out here, orders were life or death. That morning, Lucas walked Thor out to the edge of the camp under the illusion of routine. The dog walked beside him calmly, tail swaying, unaware of the weight Lucas carried. They reached a clearing where the sun hit the sand like a spotlight. Lucas knelt, rifle shaking in his hands. Thor sat in front of him, eyes locked on his, panting lightly, ears up, not afraid, not suspicious, just waiting for the next command. Just as Lucas began to lift the rifle, the earth trembled. A distant explosion broke the silence. Alarms screamed through the base. Sirens. Gunfire. Chaos erupted as the base was attacked from the eastern ridge. In that moment, everything shifted. Thor turned and ran toward the danger, not away. Lucas screamed after him, but Thor disappeared into the rising dust. Then came the second explosion, closer, sharper. A buried landmine had gone off. Reports flooded in as civilians had been spotted near the minefield. No one knew they were there. No one but Thor. When soldiers reached the site, what they found would haunt them forever. Thor, bloody and broken, lay at the edge of the blast. His leg was mangled, part of his side torn open. But next to him, huddled and alive, were a group of civilians: an elderly man, 2 women, and 3 children. Thor had seen them wandering unknowingly toward the mines. He had barked, pushed, herded them back. And when the mine triggered, he absorbed the full force to shield them. The same commanding officer who had signed his death order stood silent, eyes wide, mouth unable to form words. Soldiers wept. Lucas dropped to his knees, his scream tearing into the sky as he cradled Thor's head in his lap. The dog looked up at him, not in pain, but in peace, as if saying, "It's okay. I did what I was made to do." Thor was airlifted to a trauma unit. He was not expected to survive. For 2 days, Lucas remained beside him, holding his paw, whispering stories, prayers, apologies. The world beyond the medical tent faded. But on the 3rd day, Thor opened his eyes. He couldn't walk. His leg was gone. But he was alive. And the world noticed. News spread quickly. A hero dog had sacrificed himself for civilians in a war zone. Media picked up the story. Celebrities tweeted. A global petition called for his full military honors and safe retirement. Over 1 million people signed in under 72 hours. The military reversed its decision. Thor was officially retired with full honors. A ceremony was held. Medals were presented. The same base that had once planned his death now saluted him. Lucas officially adopted Thor and brought him home. But their journey wasn't over. Together, they traveled to hospitals, schools, and memorials, sharing their story not to glorify war, but to show what loyalty looks like, what courage can be, even in the body of a wounded dog. Years passed. Thor walked with a prosthetic, his gait slow but proud. He greeted children, comforted veterans with PTSD, and stood quietly by Lucas's side as he shared their journey. In one hospital, a little girl undergoing chemotherapy hugged Thor tightly and whispered, "You're not broken. You're my hero." And in that moment, Lucas knew Thor's purpose had never ended. It had only changed. He had once been a weapon. Then a savior. Now, he was a healer. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. Let stories like Thor's live forever in our hearts. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Lucas's place? Would you have obeyed the order or followed your heart? We're reading every comment. We thank you for being here.